Listen closely, because this moment is not, it is precise, it is intentional, and it is reaching for you right now in a way you almost missed. My beloved, you were led here, not by accident, but by alignment, by a quiet pull your spirit recognized before your mind could explain. There is a reason this message found you in this exact moment, in this exact state, with everything you have been carrying. And no, this is not about fear. This is not about pressure. This is not a countdown meant to make you anxious or unsettled. The urgency you feel is not a threat, it is an invitation. It is the gentle but firm nudge of divine timing saying, now, you are ready. For so long, things felt delayed, paused, even denied. You questioned if you missed your moment, if you were overlooked, if somehow life moved forward while you remained stuck. But what if nothing was late? What if nothing was lost? What if heaven itself was waiting, not because you were unworthy, but because you were still becoming someone who could carry what is now being released? Stay with me, because this matters more than you realize. There is a shift happening, and it does not begin with noise or chaos. It begins quietly, like this. A message. A pause. A realization that something inside you is no longer the same. You are not the person you were when you first prayed for what you are asking for now. You are not as fragile, not as uncertain, not as easily shaken. And because of that, something that once would have overwhelmed you can now be entrusted to you. This is where Archangel Michael steps forward in your awareness, not as a distant figure, but as a protector who has been present even in your silence. Not every battle you faced was visible. Not every weight you carried was yours alone. There were moments you thought you were barely holding on, when in truth, you were being held. Protected in ways you could not see. Redirected in ways you did not understand. There were doors that did not open, conversations that did not resolve, paths that suddenly closed, and you wondered why. You wondered what you did wrong. But those moments were not rejection, they were protection. They were part of a larger timing that required you to arrive here, now, with a different strength, a clearer vision, and a steadier heart. You are not standing at the edge of loss. You are standing at the edge of release. And yes, it may feel subtle at first. You might not see dramatic signs immediately. You might not hear a loud confirmation. Instead, it will come as a quiet knowing. A sense of calm where there used to be tension. A clarity where confusion once lived. A small but undeniable shift that tells you something has changed. That is the beginning. But there is more, and you need to understand this part clearly. There is a sign connected to this moment, something specific, something you will recognize when it appears. It will not be random, and it will not leave you guessing. It will meet you in a way that feels both surprising and deeply familiar, like something your soul has been expecting all along. And when that sign comes, what you do next will matter. Not in a way that creates pressure, but in a way that invites awareness. Because this time, you will not overlook it. This time, you will not doubt it away. You have been prepared to recognize it, to receive it, and to respond with wisdom instead of fear. So take a breath right now, just for a moment. Let your shoulders settle. Let your thoughts slow down. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are arriving exactly when you are meant to. And in the next moments, I am going to show you why the delays you experienced were not empty, but purposeful, and what was actually happening behind the scenes while you were waiting. What felt like silence was never emptiness, it was construction. I need you to hear that again, not just with your mind, but with the part of you that has been carrying questions for far too long. What you experienced as delay, as being overlooked, as doors closing without explanation, it was not rejection. It was preparation happening out of sight, beyond your immediate understanding. Because if it had come earlier, when you first asked, you would not have been able to hold it without breaking under its weight. And that is not a judgment of your past self. That is an acknowledgement of your growth. You remember those moments, don't you? When you prayed with urgency, asking for relief in your finances, for stability, for something to finally shift so you could breathe again. You looked at your situation and thought, if this doesn't change soon, I don't know how I'll keep going. And yet, the change did not come when you expected. Or when it came to relationships, when you gave your energy, your loyalty, your time, hoping it would be returned in the same measure. But instead, you were met with distance, confusion, or even silence. You questioned your worth. You wondered if you were too much, or somehow not enough. And in your health, or your peace of mind, there were days when the weight felt invisible to everyone else but overwhelming to you. Nights where your thoughts would not settle. Mornings where getting up required more strength than anyone could see. All of it felt like abandonment. But look deeper now. What if, in those very moments, something was being built within you that could not have been formed any other way? Because while you were waiting, you were also learning. Quietly, steadily, sometimes painfully, you were developing endurance. You were learning how to stand even when nothing around you confirmed that things were changing. You were learning how to hold faith without immediate evidence. You were learning discernment, who to trust, what to release, when to step back instead of forcing forward. That kind of strength does not come instantly. It is forged in the exact conditions you thought were holding you back. There is a difference between being delayed and being developed. Delay feels like standing still with no purpose. Development, even when hidden, is movement beneath the surface. And your life has not been stagnant, it has been shaping you. Think about how you respond now compared to before. The things that once triggered panic now meet a calmer version of you. The situations that once drained you completely, you now navigate with more awareness. You may not feel fully where you want to be yet, but you are no longer where you were. That shift matters more than you realize. Because what is coming next in your life requires not just desire, but capacity. It requires a steadiness that can hold pressure without collapsing. It requires a clarity that can recognize opportunity without sabotaging it through fear. It requires a grounded sense of identity that is not easily shaken by temporary circumstances. And this is what was being formed in you. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Even in your loneliness, something sacred was happening. In the absence of constant noise and distraction, you were being brought closer to a deeper awareness of yourself and your connection to the divine. You were learning how to sit with your thoughts, how to listen inwardly, how to find strength that did not depend entirely on external validation. That kind of connection becomes an anchor when everything else feels uncertain. So no, you were not being ignored. You were being protected from receiving too soon what could only be sustained later. And I know part of you still wonders, why did it have to be this hard? That question is honest. It deserves acknowledgement, not dismissal. But understand this, the difficulty was not meant to harm you, it was meant to refine you. Not every hardship was sent, but every hardship was used. Nothing you went through was wasted. Even the moments that felt confusing, even the situations that seemed unfair, they contributed to shaping the version of you that exists right now. And that version of you is stronger than you give yourself credit for. More aware. More resilient. More prepared. Which is why the timing is shifting now. Not because something outside suddenly decided to favor you, but because something inside you reached a point of readiness. You can feel it, even if you cannot fully explain it yet. A subtle difference. A quiet steadiness. A sense that you are no longer chasing the same things in the same way. That is the signal. And as this becomes clearer, you will also begin to understand the resistance that surrounded you, the unseen tension that made everything feel heavier than it should have been. Because what you were preparing to carry did not go unnoticed. And in the next moments, I'm going to reveal what was really happening around you during this time, the part you could not see, but absolutely felt. There were moments when it felt heavier than it should have been. Not just difficult, not just inconvenient, but unusually heavy, like you were carrying something more than the situation itself. You tried to explain it logically. You told yourself it was stress, bad timing, or just a series of unfortunate events. But deep down, there was a quiet awareness that something about it did not feel ordinary. This is where you begin to understand the invisible battle around you, not as something to fear, but as something to finally recognize with clarity. Because not every resistance you encountered was random. Some of it was pressure. Some of it was opposition. Some of it was the friction that naturally comes when you are moving towards something meaningful, something that matters, something that carries weight beyond the surface of your daily life. And no, this does not mean you were under constant attack or surrounded by darkness in a way that should make you anxious. That kind of thinking only creates fear, and fear is not where you are being led. Instead, this is about awareness, calm, grounded awareness that helps you understand why certain seasons felt more intense than others. Think about the patterns. The moments when you were about to make progress, and suddenly something unexpected disrupted it. The times when you felt clarity, only to be followed by confusion that made you second-guess yourself. The relationships where you gave sincerely, yet something unseen seemed to distort the connection, creating distance or misunderstanding. Even the emotional exhaustion that would come without clear reason, days when your body felt tired, but your spirit felt even more drained, like you were pushing through something invisible. These were not signs that you were failing. They were signs that what you were moving toward carried significance. Because growth attracts resistance. Not as punishment, but as part of the process that strengthens your ability to stand, to discern, and to continue forward without losing yourself. But here is where the perspective shifts, and this is important. For every moment of unseen resistance, there was also unseen protection. You were never left to face anything alone. While you were navigating confusion, there was guidance quietly redirecting you away from paths that would have drained you further. While you were feeling delayed, there were obstacles being removed that you could not yet see. While you were questioning your direction, there was a presence ensuring that you did not step into something that would have cost you more than you were prepared to lose. This is where Archangel Michael's role becomes clear, not as a distant symbol, but as an active protector who has been standing in the spaces you could not see. Guarding. Intervening. Holding back what was not aligned, even when you did not understand why things were not moving. There were conversations that never fully formed because they would have led you into deeper confusion. There were opportunities that seemed promising but quietly dissolved because they were not meant to sustain you. There were moments where you felt pushed away from something, only to later realize it would have taken more from you than it gave. That was not coincidence. That was protection in motion. And yes, there were also subtle forms of resistance that came through people, sometimes through envy, sometimes through misunderstanding, sometimes through projections that had nothing to do with who you truly are. Not everyone who crossed your path understood your direction, and not everyone could see what was being formed within you. But instead of allowing that to harden you, something within you began to shift. You became more discerning. You started to recognize when to engage and when to step back. You learned that not every voice deserves your energy, and not every opinion needs your agreement. That is growth in the middle of battle. That is strength being refined, not through force, but through awareness. And even in your lowest moments, when you felt tired of trying, tired of hoping, tired of waiting, you were still being covered. You may not have felt it clearly at the time, but there was a boundary around you that prevented certain things from reaching you fully. Situations that could have escalated, but didn't. Losses that could have been deeper, but were limited. Decisions you almost made, but paused just in time. That is what unseen protection looks like. It does not always remove difficulty, but it reduces damage. It does not always eliminate struggle, but it ensures that struggle does not define your outcome. You were being guided through, not abandoned within. So now, as you stand at this point, you are not stepping forward unguarded. You are not walking into the next season without support. The same presence that protected you in the unseen is still with you now, but your awareness of it is becoming clearer. And that awareness changes how you move. You no longer have to interpret every delay as failure. You no longer have to internalize every setback as something being wrong with you. You begin to see the patterns differently. You begin to trust that even when things do not unfold immediately, something is still working in your favor beneath the surface. That shift, from confusion to quiet trust, is part of your readiness. And as you hold on to that, something else begins to surface. A realization of just how close you came to giving up, and how that moment, that edge, holds more significance than you understood at the time. Because what happened in that space was not weakness. It was a turning point. And in the next part, I'm going to take you into that moment, the one where everything felt like it might fall apart, but didn't, and why that moment changed more than you realize. There was a moment, quiet, almost invisible to everyone else, when you came closer to giving up than you have ever admitted. It didn't look dramatic on the outside. There was no announcement, no collapse that others could point to and say, "That's when it happened." Instead, it was internal. A slow wearing down. A quiet thought that slipped in and lingered longer than usual. Maybe this just isn't going to change. Let me tell you a story, because it mirrors more than you might expect. There was someone who had been holding on for years, believing that something in their life would finally shift. They had prayed, waited, adjusted, tried again, and still found themselves facing the same patterns. Financial pressure that never fully lifted. Relationships that started with hope but ended in confusion. A constant feeling of being almost there, but never quite arriving. One evening, after another long day that felt like it led nowhere, they sat alone in a dimly lit room. The noise of the world had faded, and all that remained were their thoughts. And in that silence, something broke, not loudly, but deeply. They didn't cry out. They didn't even speak. They just sat there and thought, "I don't think I have it in me to keep hoping like this." It wasn't anger. It wasn't rebellion. It was exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that comes when you have given your best, over and over again, and still feel like you are standing in the same place. The kind that makes you question not just your situation, but yourself. Did I misunderstand everything? Did I believe too much? Did I expect something that was never meant for me? And for a moment, they decided, quietly, that they would stop expecting anything more. They wouldn't announce it to anyone. They wouldn't make a dramatic change. They would simply lower their expectations, protect themselves from disappointment, and move through life without that same sense of hope. It felt safer that way. Less painful. More controlled. But here is where something unexpected happened. In the stillness of that decision, in that exact moment where hope felt like it was slipping away, something shifted, not outside, but within. It was subtle at first. Not a voice, not a sudden answer, but a feeling. A quiet resistance to the idea of giving up completely. As if something deeper within them refused to agree with that conclusion. They tried to ignore it. They told themselves, "No, this is just me trying to cope. This is me trying to hold on to something that isn't real." But the feeling didn't leave. Instead, it grew slightly stronger, not overwhelming, not forceful, just steady. A sense that said, "You're closer than you think." And they didn't fully believe it. Not right away. But they paused. And that pause changed everything. Because instead of completely shutting down their hope, they allowed a small space for possibility to remain. Not a grand, confident belief. Just a small opening that said, "Maybe I don't see everything yet." In the days that followed, nothing dramatic happened at first. There was no immediate breakthrough, no sudden transformation that confirmed everything instantly. But there were small shifts. A conversation that felt different. An idea that came with clarity instead of confusion. A sense of calm in a situation that would have previously caused stress. And slowly, almost quietly, things began to move. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But undeniably. Looking back, That person realized something powerful. The moment they thought was their breaking point was actually their turning point. Not because everything changed instantly, but because something inside them refused to fully collapse. That small resistance, the decision not to completely give up, became the foundation for everything that followed. Now, listen carefully, because this is where the story meets you. You have had your own version of that moment. Maybe it didn't look exactly the same. Maybe it came in a different form, a long drive where your thoughts felt heavier than usual, a quiet night where sleep wouldn't come, a conversation that left you feeling more alone than before, or a moment where you simply stared at your situation and felt tired of trying. But the feeling was the same. That edge. That place where continuing forward felt uncertain, and letting go felt easier. And yet, you didn't fully give up. You may have pulled back. You may have questioned everything. You may have even told yourself to stop expecting so much. But something in you stayed open, even if only slightly. That matters more than you realize. Because that small opening is not weakness, it is evidence of something deeper within you that recognizes timing, even when your mind is unsure. It is the part of you that knew this was not the end of your story. And just like in that story, what comes next does not begin with something loud or overwhelming. It begins with subtle shifts. Small confirmations. Moments that feel different in a way you cannot fully explain yet. You are not standing at the end. You are standing at the point where everything begins to turn, even if it has not fully revealed itself yet. And now, what you need to understand is not just that you held on, but how you have changed through that process, because that change is the very reason you are now ready for what is coming next. Something inside you is not the same anymore, and even if you cannot fully explain it, you can feel it. It's subtle. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't demand attention. But it's there, quietly present beneath your thoughts, beneath your reactions, beneath the way you now move through situations that once would have overwhelmed you. This is the readiness shift. And it did not happen overnight. There was a time when uncertainty would immediately turn into anxiety. When delays would feel like rejection. When silence would make you question everything, your worth, your direction, even your faith. You were quicker to react, quicker to assume the worst, quicker to carry burdens that were never meant to stay on your shoulders for long. But look at you now. You still feel things deeply, but you don't collapse under them the same way. You still face challenges, but something in you pauses before reacting. There is a space now, a moment between what happens and how you respond, and in that space, you have begun to choose differently. That is growth. That is strength. That is preparation becoming visible. You have developed resilience, not the kind that ignores pain, but the kind that moves through it without losing direction. You have learned patience, not as passive waiting, but as steady trust that not everything needs to happen immediately to be meaningful. And perhaps most importantly, you have developed discernment, the ability to sense what aligns with you and what does not, even when it looks appealing on the surface. These are not small changes. These are the exact qualities required to carry what you once prayed for. Because what is coming next in your life is not just about receiving, it is about sustaining. In the past, you might have asked for certain opportunities, certain relationships, certain levels of stability without fully realizing the responsibility that would come with them. You were ready in desire, but still growing in capacity. Now, something is different. You are less attached to outcomes that once felt urgent. You are more aware of your energy, more protective of your peace. You notice patterns quicker. You step back sooner when something feels misaligned. You are not as easily pulled into cycles that drain you. That is not coincidence. That is evidence that you are no longer the same person who first asked for what you are now about to receive. And here is the truth that needs to settle within you. Readiness is not about perfection. It is about stability. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to feel completely confident every moment. What matters is that you are no longer easily shaken by every uncertainty. You have a foundation now, something steady that remains even when things around you are still forming. Think about the situations that used to completely derail you. A delay would have made you spiral into doubt. A setback would have made you question your entire path. Someone's opinion could have shifted how you saw yourself. But now? You feel it, yes, but you recover faster. You process differently. You don't stay in those states as long as you once did. There is a quiet return to center that happens more naturally than before. That return is your strength. And it is the reason you can now carry more without being overwhelmed by it. Because what is being prepared for you is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is something that requires you to stand in it with clarity, with balance, with the ability to hold both opportunity and responsibility at the same time. And you are closer to that than you think. Even in the areas where you still feel uncertain, there is progress. Even in the parts of your life that are still forming, there is movement. You are not stuck, you are stabilizing. And stabilizing is what makes expansion possible. So if there is a part of you that still questions, am I really ready? Understand this. The fact that you are asking that question with awareness, rather than desperation, already shows the shift. You are not chasing blindly anymore. You are observing, discerning, choosing. That is readiness. And as this becomes clearer to you, something else will begin to unfold, not just within you, but around you. Small confirmations, subtle alignments, moments that reflect back to you that the shift is real. Because readiness does not remain hidden for long. It reveals itself through signs. And in the next moments, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, how to recognize the signs that this new season has already begun, and what they will feel like when they appear. The sign you have been waiting for is not going to arrive the way you once imagined it. It will not be loud. It will not demand your attention with chaos or overwhelm. It will not force you into instant certainty or dramatic action. In fact, if you are expecting something overwhelming, something impossible to ignore, you might miss it entirely. Because the real sign begins quietly. It begins within you. The first sign is peace, unexpected, steady, and unforced. Not the kind of peace that comes because everything around you is perfect, but the kind that appears even when circumstances are still in motion. You may notice it in a moment where you would have normally felt anxious, but instead, there is a calm presence. A sense that you don't need to rush, that you don't need to panic, that something is already aligning even if you cannot yet see the full picture. This peace will not argue with your fear. It will simply exist alongside it, gently inviting you to choose differently. That is your first confirmation. The second sign is clarity, not complete answers, but clear next steps. You may not suddenly understand everything about your future, but you will begin to see what is directly in front of you with more precision. A decision that once felt confusing will feel simpler. A path that once seemed uncertain will feel quietly right. You will not have to force it. It will make sense in a way that feels natural, almost obvious. Pay attention to that. Clarity does not always come as a full plan. Often, it comes as a single step that feels aligned. And that is enough. The third sign is alignment, small moments that connect in ways they didn't before. A conversation that arrives at the right time. An opportunity that fits without strain. A piece of information that answers a question you didn't even speak out loud. These are not coincidences stacked randomly. They are patterns forming, showing you that something is beginning to move in your favor. But here is where many people miss it. They overthink it. They look for perfection. They question every detail. They ask themselves, what if I'm imagining this? What if this isn't real? What if I make the wrong move? And in doing so, they disconnect from the very clarity they were given. So listen carefully. You are not meant to analyze the sign into certainty. You are meant to recognize it with awareness and respond with calm trust. This is where your growth matters. The version of you from before might have rushed ahead, trying to control every outcome, trying to secure every detail immediately. Or, on the other side, you might have hesitated so much that you missed the moment entirely, waiting for absolute confirmation that never came. But now, you are being invited into a different response. When you feel that peace, pause and allow it. When clarity shows you a step, take it without needing the entire path. When alignment appears, acknowledge it without forcing it to become something more than it is. This is how you move with the sign, not against it. Because the beginning of this shift is not dramatic, it is precise. It is designed to build your trust gradually, not overwhelm you instantly. Think of it like this: something significant is being placed into your life, but it is being introduced in a way that allows you to adjust, to recognize, to step into it with stability rather than shock. That is why it feels subtle. That is why it feels almost easy to overlook. But you will know. Not through pressure, not through fear, but through a quiet recognition that feels steady instead of urgent. And if you are unsure in the moment, here is something simple you can do. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, does this bring clarity or confusion? Does this create peace or pressure? The sign will not rush you into anxiety. It will not demand that you act out of fear. Even when it requires courage, it will carry a sense of rightness beneath it. Trust that feeling. Not blindly, but with the awareness you have developed. Because this is not about guessing. It is about recognizing what is already aligning with you. And as these signs begin to appear, something else becomes important: what you do with them. Because recognition is only the first step. Response is what allows the shift to continue. In the next moments, I'm going to guide you through exactly what to do when this begins, how to move, how to stay grounded, and how to make sure you don't disrupt what is already unfolding in your favor. When it begins, it will not ask you to rush, it will ask you to stay steady. This is where many people lose alignment, not because they did anything wrong, but because they moved too quickly, too emotionally, or too fearfully the moment something started to shift. After waiting for so long, it is natural to want to act immediately, to secure the opportunity, to make sure nothing slips away. But this time is different. You are not being led into urgency, you are being led into awareness. So the first thing you must do when you notice the signs is simple, but powerful: pause. Not to hesitate, not to doubt, but to anchor yourself. Take a breath. Let the moment settle. Allow your thoughts to slow down enough so that you are responding from clarity, not reacting from fear. This pause is not delay, it is alignment. It creates space for you to move intentionally instead of impulsively. From that place, you begin with stillness. Not hours of silence or retreat from your life, but small, consistent moments where you return to center. Even a few minutes in your day where you step away from noise, close your eyes, and become aware of your breathing can make a difference. In that stillness, you reconnect with the calm you felt when the sign first appeared. This is where guidance becomes clearer. Because when your mind is overwhelmed, everything feels urgent and confusing. But when you are grounded, what matters becomes easier to recognize. From stillness, you move into prayer. Not complicated, not formal, just honest. Speak simply. Guide me. Show me the next step. Help me move with clarity. You don't need perfect words. You need presence. Prayer, in this moment, is not about asking for everything at once. It is about staying connected as things unfold. And as you pray, listen as much as you speak. Guidance does not always come in words. Sometimes it comes as a feeling, a thought that settles gently, a sense of direction that feels calm rather than pressured. Trust that. Then, take a small step. Not a giant leap. Not a decision that forces everything at once. Just the next aligned action in front of you. It might be sending a message, organizing something you've been avoiding, following through on an idea that feels right, or simply choosing not to return to an old pattern that you have outgrown. Small steps matter more than dramatic moves. Because consistency builds momentum, and momentum sustains change. This is where journaling becomes important. Not as a task, but as a tool for clarity. Write down what you are noticing. The signs, the feelings, the thoughts that feel different from before. When you put it into words, you begin to see patterns more clearly. You begin to understand what is shifting instead of letting it pass unnoticed. And when doubt tries to return, and it may, in small ways, you will have something to look back on. A record of alignment. A reminder that something real is unfolding. Now listen carefully, because this part will protect you. Do not rush ahead out of fear. Fear will try to disguise itself as urgency. It will tell you, act now before it disappears, or do everything at once so you don't lose it. But that energy is not aligned with what is happening. What is meant for you does not require panic to sustain it. It requires presence. So if you feel pressured, overwhelmed, or confused, that is your signal to slow down, not speed up. Return to stillness. Return to prayer. Return to the calm center you are learning to trust. This is how you stay aligned. Not by forcing outcomes, but by walking steadily with what is unfolding. And above all, stay consistent. Not perfect, not intense, consistent. A few moments of stillness each day. A simple prayer. A small action. A brief reflection. These may seem insignificant on their own, but together, they create a rhythm that keeps you grounded as things begin to shift around you. This is how you carry what is coming without being overwhelmed by it. You don't need to do everything at once. You just need to stay present with each step as it reveals itself. And as you begin to practice this, something else will happen. Your awareness will deepen. Your sensitivity to peace, clarity, and alignment will become stronger. And you will start to feel supported in a way that goes beyond your own effort, a presence that steadies you, protects you, and reminds you that you are not walking through this alone. So in the next moments, I'm going to guide you into that awareness more deeply, not just understanding it, but feeling it, through a quiet moment of stillness and a prayer that will help you anchor everything you've just received. Right now, I want you to slow down with me. Not tomorrow, not later, right here, in this moment. You have taken in so much already, and before you move forward, this is where it settles. This is where it becomes real within you. So gently, take a breath in. Not a forced breath, not something rushed. Just a natural, steady inhale, and then release it slowly. Let your shoulders drop a little. Let your body soften, even if only slightly. Again, breathe in and out. You don't need to clear your mind completely. You don't need to be perfect in this moment. Just allow yourself to be present. Allow yourself to arrive here, without carrying everything all at once. As you sit in this stillness, begin to notice something. There is a quiet space within you that has always been there, even in your busiest, most overwhelming moments. A place that is not shaken by every thought, not controlled by every situation. You may not always feel it clearly, but it exists. And right now, you are reconnecting with it. This is where peace begins. Not outside, not in perfect circumstances, but within this awareness. A calm that does not need everything to be resolved before it can exist. Stay here for a moment. And as you do, I want you to become aware of something else, not something you see, but something you sense. You are not alone in this moment. There is a presence with you, steady and unwavering. Not distant, not watching from afar, but near. Protective. Aware of everything you have carried, everything you have questioned, everything you are stepping into. This is where you allow that awareness to settle. Now, softly, we move into prayer. You don't need to say this out loud unless you want to. You can follow along in your mind, or simply receive it. God, In this moment of stillness, I come as I am. Not with perfect words, not with complete understanding, but with openness. You see what I have been carrying. You know the weight I have felt, the questions I have held, the moments where I felt uncertain and tired. I ask for your clarity now. Not all at once, but in the steps I need to take. Help me recognize what is aligned with me and release what is not. Quiet the noise that creates confusion, and strengthen the peace that guides me forward. Surround me with protection, seen and unseen. Guard my mind from fear that tries to rush me, and my heart from doubt that tries to pull me back. Let me move with steadiness, not pressure. With trust, not anxiety. And where I feel weak, meet me with strength. Where I feel uncertain, meet me with clarity. Where I feel alone, remind me that I am supported in ways I cannot always see. I receive what is being prepared for me, with readiness and peace. Step by step, I move forward, grounded and aware. Amen. Now take another slow breath. Let those words settle, not as something distant, but as something already beginning to take root within you. You don't have to force anything from here. You don't have to prove anything. Just remain open, remain steady, and allow what is unfolding to continue. And if this moment resonates with you, if you feel that quiet shift within, you can anchor it with a simple affirmation. Just right, I am ready to receive. Not as a performance, not as pressure, but as a gentle confirmation of what you are stepping into. Stay in this calm for just a few more seconds. Because what comes next builds on this foundation, and it will help you understand what begins to change around you as you continue forward. What happens next will not feel like a sudden explosion of change, it will feel like a quiet unfolding that becomes undeniable over time. This is important to understand, because many people miss their breakthrough not because it didn't come, but because it didn't come the way they expected. They were looking for something dramatic, something immediate, something that would instantly confirm that everything had shifted. But real breakthrough rarely begins that way. It begins with a pattern. A shift in rhythm. A gradual movement from chaos into clarity. You will start to notice that the same situations that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their intensity. The pressure that used to sit heavily on your mind will start to lift, not all at once, but in layers. What once felt urgent and confusing will begin to feel manageable, even clear. This is the first part of the pattern. What used to drain you will no longer hold the same power. Not because everything around you has changed instantly, but because something within you is no longer reacting the same way. You are not feeding the chaos with the same level of fear, and because of that, it begins to fade. And as that happens, something else begins to rise in its place, clarity. Not perfect clarity, not a full map of everything ahead, but enough to move forward with confidence in the next step. You will start to see connections where there used to be confusion. You will recognize opportunities that once felt hidden. You will understand situations with a level of awareness that simply wasn't there before. This is the second part of the pattern. Clarity begins to replace confusion. And with that clarity comes movement. Opportunities will begin to appear, but here is where your readiness becomes essential. Because not every opportunity is meant to be taken immediately, and not every open door requires you to rush through it. Some doors are invitations to observe. Some are invitations to prepare. And some are invitations to step forward, but with intention, not impulse. This is where responsibility enters the picture. Breakthrough is not just about receiving something new. It is about carrying it well. It is about recognizing that what you once prayed for now requires your presence, your awareness, your ability to stay grounded even as things expand. You are no longer in a place where you can afford to move without thought or react without awareness. Not because you need to be perfect, but because what is unfolding deserves your full attention. And this is a good thing. It means you are no longer being prepared, you are stepping into participation. So as opportunities come, ask yourself simple questions. Does this align with the peace I have felt? Does this move me forward with clarity, or pull me back into confusion? Am I acting from trust, or from fear of missing out? These questions will keep you steady. Because the pattern of breakthrough is not about speed, it is about alignment. And alignment creates sustainability. You will also begin to notice changes in how people respond to you. Conversations may feel different. Certain connections may deepen, while others naturally fall away. This is not loss, it is adjustment. It is your environment responding to the shift that has already taken place within you. Let it happen without resistance. Not everything is meant to move forward with you, and that is part of the process. At the same time, new support will begin to appear. It may not look exactly the way you expected, but it will feel right. It will feel balanced, not draining. It will feel like something that adds to your path, not something that complicates it. Trust those connections. Now, here is something that will help you stay grounded through all of this. Do not measure your progress only by external results. Yes, things will begin to shift outwardly, but the deeper confirmation is in how you feel and how you move. The calm you maintain. The clarity you hold. The decisions you make with awareness instead of urgency. That is real progress. Because when your inner state is steady, your outer world has something solid to build on. And this is how the breakthrough continues. Not as a single moment, but as a series of aligned steps that build into something lasting. You will look back and realize that what felt small at first was actually the beginning of something significant. That the quiet shifts were more powerful than any dramatic change could have been. So trust the gradual unfolding. Trust the pattern, even when it feels slow. Trust that what is building now is meant to last, not just appear and disappear. And as you continue to move forward with this awareness, there is one more thing that will anchor everything you have received, a final moment of confirmation, a blessing that brings it all together and settles it within you. And now, just for a moment, let everything you've received settle within you. Not as something distant, not as something you have to chase, but as something that is already aligning in your life, even if it is still unfolding step by step. You have walked through understanding, through reflection, through awareness, and what remains now is not confusion, but quiet confidence. Because look at what has become clear. You were never abandoned. You were protected in ways you could not always see. You were never delayed without purpose. You were being prepared for something that required a stronger, steadier version of you. And now, you are no longer standing in that same place of uncertainty. You are standing in readiness, even if it still feels new, even if it still feels unfamiliar at times. That is the shift. Not everything around you has fully changed yet, but everything within you that needed to has moved into place. And because of that, what is ahead will not overwhelm you the way it once could have. It will meet you where you are now. So instead of rushing forward, instead of trying to control every detail, I want you to carry this one truth with you. You do not need to force what is already being aligned. You only need to stay open, stay grounded, and stay aware. When peace comes, allow it. When clarity appears, follow it. When alignment shows itself, trust it. This is how you walk forward now, not with urgency, but with quiet confidence. And in that confidence, there is a blessing I want you to receive. Not something distant, not something abstract, but something you allow into your awareness right now. May you be covered in peace that steadies your thoughts when they begin to wander. May you be guided with clarity that meets you exactly where you are, giving you each step as you are ready to take it. May you be protected in ways you do not have to constantly question, knowing that what is not meant for you will not take hold, and what is meant for you will find its way with alignment. May your heart remain open, but not unguarded. Strong, but not hardened. Ready, but not rushed. And may you continue to recognize, more and more each day, that you are not walking this path alone. Let that settle within you. Let it become something you return to when doubt tries to reappear. Because doubt may still visit, but it will not stay the way it once did. You have seen too much. You have grown too much. You are aware now in a way that changes how you move forward. So as you continue from here, keep it simple. Return to stillness when you need it. Return to prayer when you feel uncertain. Return to awareness when things begin to shift. You do not need to complicate what is already unfolding. And if this message has met you at the right time, if it has brought you clarity, calm, or even a small sense of reassurance that you didn't have before, you can gently pass that forward. Share it with someone who might need this same reminder. Not out of obligation, but out of understanding, because there are others standing in the same place you once were, wondering if anything is really changing. Sometimes, a message like this is the beginning of that shift for them, just as it may be for you now. Stay steady. Stay open. And trust that what is unfolding in your life is not, it is aligned, it is intentional, and it is already in motion.